Students, we have successfully finished third module. Now today we are going to start fourth module, that is advancement in leadership styles. In this particular segment, you will be studying exactly what are the recent development in the field of leadership style. In this continuation, today you will see the servant leadership, which is one of the most dominant and most useful discussion whatever is going on in different academic fora. What exactly servant leadership? Before starting that, we must be seeing what is the difference between theories and style, since our discussion is advancement in leadership style. Leadership theories tells us framework for making the leader to be effective, but leadership style says what exactly approach or behavior being used by a particular leader to convince others and to accomplish organizational mission or goals. So servant leadership is somewhat new, which is most important nowadays. What exactly role of leader? This particular theory tells us be a servant to complete the work or to accomplish the objectives of certain organization. You just behave, work like a servant. Servant as a leader. In this particular topic, you will be learning what exactly methods of leadership and the servant leadership, origin, key characteristics of servant leadership, because servant leadership and traditional leadership, what is the difference? Benefits and challenges of servant leaderships, example of servant leaders in history and business, servant leadership in OB and HRM, developing servant leadership skills. In a nutshell, you will be seeing origin of servant leadership and how this servant leadership plays a vital role in organizational behavior and how this leadership is different from traditional leadership. Finally, you will be knowing the techniques through which we can develop servant leadership of any organization. Let us see its meaning. Servant leadership. Servant leadership emphasizes the importance of helping others, fostering their development and well-being. Greenleaf, in fact, he is the person designed the concept of servant leadership. Servant leadership emphasizes, again I am telling you, the importance of helping others, fostering their development and well-being. The servant leader always focus on development of their followers and ultimately keep in mind what way employee well-being can be fostered. Why it is important? Servant leadership, students, that define the moral leadership, builds strong cooperative groups, foster organizational commitment and job satisfaction. These are the three different issues why we need to follow the servant leadership. It actually develop the job satisfaction, it actually develop the commitment among the different group of employees. Students, maximum organization, what is very problem, that is the part of the commitment. That means employees are not committed. Employees are not giving their full strength for the development of organization. As a result, they have the poor satisfaction. So understanding the problem of employees target groups, you must be knowing exactly what their problem. So servant leaders, when he behave like a servant, like a co-worker of employees, and he must be knowing exactly what kind of problem of employees or staffs they are in. Now see, origin and concept of servant leadership. Robert Greenleaf in 1970, he published one book, The Servant as a Leader, which becomes more popular. And he said the leader exists to serve the people, not the other way around. Your leader basically to serve the people, not the other way around. Leaders focus on developing employees, fostering a people first culture. These are the two important variable things what suggested by Greenleaf. That means developing people, fostering a people first culture. That means whatever culture you develop in the organization, that must be people oriented, that must be employee oriented, that must be customer oriented. So this is the base of servant leadership. Now characteristics of the servant leadership, so many authors have defined servant leadership in different way, but few things, Pearce in 2010 identified 10 characteristics of a servant leadership style, which are as follows: listening, understanding the needs of team members. This is very important. Developing the techniques of listening of the group members, empathy, acknowledging and appreciating emotion. Then healing, helping individuals recover from challenges. That means you are the leader. You are supposed to help the employees to recover from any kind of challenges, being mindful of self and others, awareness, persuasion, influencing rather than commanding. What exactly? These are all the sum of characteristics. More characteristics: conceptualization, thinking beyond short-term goals, anticipating future consequences, stewardship, taking responsibility for the organization and people, investing in employee development, building community, encouraging team spirit and unity. Students, you have seen approx 10 different characteristics, so-called nature of servant leadership. Ultimately, that shows us this is one kind of style basically which promote to understand the problem of employees, problem of people, which foster the development of employees' commitment, employees' job satisfaction. Ultimately, that improves the organizational effectiveness. Now see, one must be knowing why servant leadership, although it is the concept of 1970. Why this thing now emerged? Why people are now talking about servant leadership? What is the drawbacks of the other traditional leadership? You can find some points, whereas you will be knowing exactly what kind of difference traditional leadership versus servant leadership. Some of points I have identified for your better understanding, like as first is the focus. Traditional leadership focus on power and authority. Traditional leadership focus power and authority. That means influence the people, apply your power and authority to accomplish the goal of organization, achievement of goal of organization. But in the case of servant leadership, they say no, there is the service and empowerment. Try to understand the problem of employees and develop them so that they will be competent enough to do their own job. Focus, decision making, it is the top down, it emerges from top part of the organization and reach to the bottom line. Then in the case of servant leadership, there is collaborative. Goal is different in both the leadership, profit and control in the case of traditional leadership, but in the case of servant leadership, there is employee and organizational growth. Both are very interesting basically, It's not only development of employees, it is the development of organizations also in the case of, servant leadership. Leadership style, in the case of traditional leadership, there is a directive, but in the case of servant leadership, there is a supportive and development. This is some of core difference traditional leadership versus servant leadership. Now see, this is the pyramid. You can see that what way traditional leadership authority flows from top to bottom, leader, management, employees and customer. If you identify the 4 different segments of that particular pyramid, that first top level pyramid is the what I said, that leader, management, employees and customer, since it is structuring from top to bottom. But in the case of servant leadership, that starts from customer, employees and management, leader, just opposite way. That means both the structure of leaderships are entirely different. One is based on collaboration and mutual understanding, but in another cases traditional leadership that follows power and authority. Now see, benefits of servant leadership, you must be knowing why this kind of leadership, how it is very much beneficial for the organization. That is, first one, higher employee engagement is very important. Several types of engagement are there, basically cognitive engagement, physical engagement. These are all some of important aspect of the engagement. That means what level of attachment with the organizations you have, that can be fostered, that can be increased. Better team collaboration, stronger relationship, ethical decision making is possible in the case of servant leadership, because that focus on integrity, encourage value driven leadership. Innovation and productivity is also very important part in the case of servant leadership. Then increased employee loyalty, that is very important, that reduce the turnover rate. Students, it's very important to keep your turnover rate, that is so-called attrition rate, at the particular point. Otherwise, that may be harmful some cases. You just train the people, after a few days, they may leave the organization. There may be the chances of problems, huge problems, that in the mean period of particular time, what way you can hire the people, you may lose some kind of opportunity. Then sustainable growth, long-term focus on people and innovation, higher organizational loyalty, employees feel valued and understood. This is very important. Employees must feel valued and understood. And this is some of benefits of servant leadership. Now, some criticism are there, basically, servant leadership, perceived as weak leadership. This is some kind of perception among the different group of people, customers as well as employees. Leadership is not for only employees, basically. Leadership for the whole market. Customer is also one of the central point of leadership. Now see, what is the problem, basically? If you work as servant, behave like a servant, and if you are mixed with the lower group of people in the organization, so that may give some wrong message also some cases. And that is the problem perceived as weak leadership. Time consuming decision making, of course, is the collaborative process. Every people's opinion are very important. We need to take the opinion from different group of people. Those who are in the pyramid, if you have seen, that is the customers, executives, middle level people and some other group of people. Every people are under the part of decision making process that may lead some kind of problem. Balance required, finding the right balance between serving and making tough decisions. This is very important. If you know the all kind of problems, it's not necessary then you can solve all kind of problems. And this happened diplomatically. Leader used to solve all kind of things, but servant leadership is somewhat different. And there the real leadership of any organization, they feel that servant as a leader, and leader knows all kind of problem of customers and employees. So this is one of the balance required, basically. You know everything, but some cases you need to make some kind of very bold decision. Now see example of servant leader. There are so many things are there, basically. If we talk about the servant leaders, Mahatma Gandhi, selfless service for societal change is one of the legend leadership style. You can say that Mahatma Gandhi, what way he served the entire nation and different area of societal development. Nelson Mandela is also one of the example of servant leadership, that is empowering people and fostering reconciliation, is very important personality who raised voice against solving the problem of black and white and ethnicity problem and other things. Mother Teresa is the great example, what way she served the poor. I think it's basically the example of servant leadership. Satya Nadella is Microsoft CEO. He is also one of the great example emphasizing empathy and the people-centric leadership. As I told at the very beginning slides, basically, they are all the legend basically of those who have followed the techniques of the servant leadership. Southwest is one of the American airlines. If we see the some of corporate world, they are also working as servant leadership. Southwest is one of the airlines that they are focusing on employee happiness. Then Starbucks, it is one of the coffee chain of USA. And what kind of policy they have adopted basically, like as employee friendly policies, training and focus on employee well-being and community development. These are the some of things basically. Patagonia is also one of the retail organization of USA, commitment to sustainability and ethical business practices. So servant leadership is not only the particular person lead the people, sometimes organizations also leading the particular society and particular community as national as a whole. So these are all some of example. Now, why we study servant leadership in OB? Friends, that is very important. We must be knowing this part. Why we are studying servant leadership in OB? Because leader change the behavior of people. Leader articulate, leader motivate the people to change their mindset, to change their style of working, which is very much needed basically for change management. So employee engagement is one of the hot cake of OB basically. Employee engagement is only possible if the servant work as leader. In other words, you can say the servant, he has to work and leader has to work. There will be no any kind of difference, servant and leader. Culture building is very important. What is culture? Basically, three important traits I have mentioned here: fostering trust, open communication, and teamwork. It is the culture building basically. We need to develop the culture in organization, fostering trust, open communication, and teamwork. That is possible if you have the servant leadership. Integration with transformational leadership is very important. Transformational leadership is very new concept basically. In fact, we have one more presentation of transformational leadership, ethical leadership, authentic leadership. These are the some of emerging trends of leadership. Now see, if you are the servant and you are the leader, act as servant, you can transform the organization. And I think the style of servant leadership and the style of transformative leadership, if club both the things, that is the best way to achieve the organizational goal and vision. Organizational resilience is very important. Preparing teams to navigate change and uncertainty is very important. Any kind of uncertainty, any kind of ambiguous, any kind of opportunity, any kind of novelty, it is possible when organization is resilient. People will be resilient if the leader is there, proper leader is there. Encourage diversity and inclusion is very important, which is, we have also the different slides of diversity, equity and inclusions, or that particular cases also we will be studying. Encourage diversity and inclusions. That's very important, we can develop the inclusive workplace. Inclusive workplace is very important. That means diversity is there, surface diversity and the depth diversity. And we are including every corner of the people. So by and large, what will happen basically, organizational progress, organizational success, organizational effectiveness, everything is possible if you have the good leader that can foster the diversity and inclusion. Some developing servant leadership skills. Developing servant leadership skill is very important things. Now see, this is very interesting agenda, what we can develop in the mind of the people, servant leadership. Practice active listening. Suppose you are the follower, you are not a servant leader. You want to be a leader. Then what you do basically? These are all some of basic idea basically. But everything that will depends basically what way you practice it. Practice active listening. That means try to understand others. Develop emotional intelligence. That means building self-awareness and empathy. Encourage collaboration. Encouraging teamwork. Shared responsibilities. Open communication. It is the main picture of the collaboration. Lead by example. It is the demonstrate integrity and humility, modeling the behavior you want to see. That means what you exactly expect from others. Be a role model. Focus on long-term vision, prioritize sustainable success. It's very important nowadays, Sustainability is one of the big business agenda nowadays, Keeping in mind the development of every people without harming anybody. Continuous learning is very important things that in organization you just develop the learning and development culture. So this is the developing servant leadership skills. Now see some of questions. Who coined the term servant leadership? What is the, very oftenly I have discussed servant leadership. What is the primary focus of servant leadership? Which area servant leader used to make consider? Which key characteristics of servant leadership builds trust and foster open communication? Is very important to be a good successful servant leader. That means what you need to be, that means you need to develop trust and foster open communication is very important. I think that communication is one of the big aspect of a leadership. Leadership is nothing that is what way you just convince others, what way you just direct the others, coordinate others for achieving organizational goals or vision. Then name the benefit of servant leadership related to employee retention. Suppose if there is servant leadership, could you reduce the retention or not? Could you improve the employee retention or not? The retention is the just opposite of attrition. That means some people are interested to leave the organizations. Could you retain them? Yes, because servant leadership understand the problem very seriously. They have empathical behavior. Through this behavior, they can learn others. Then definitely that will reduce the employee attrition. Some of books I have preferred to this particular study, to this particular course, servant leadership. Greenleaf is the prime person basically. You can see servant as a leader. And 1977 he also applied the servant leadership in business. One more book, Spears, 1996, reflection on Greenleaf and servant leadership. I think Spears 2010. These are all some of books are there basically, that is ready reference that will help you to understand basic aspect and its implication in servant leadership is concerned. Now see lot of issues, lot of consent, a lot of content already I have delivered that will help you basically to understand servant leadership and also behave like a servant leadership. Thank you very much.